Thank you for joining me. I am Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, Chairman of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, and it's my privilege to welcome you to the special episode of District Dialogue. After serving 3 full terms on the Board of Commissioners for Douglas County, District 3 Commissioner Mike Mulcair is choosing to give someone else a chance to run for office. Almost after 13 years, Commissioner Mulcair is going to retire from politics and continue to impact Douglas County in other ways. We wish him the best. Please join me in watching this special program where our Director of Communication, Rick Martin, takes a look back on Commissioner Mulcair's wonderful career in politics.
What a special opportunity to interview you as we reflect on your career as an elected official. Thank you, Commissioner Mulcair.
Oh, thank you.
How did you determine what you wanted to do and be as a county commissioner?
Well, it's kind of funny that you asked that. I really had no plans to be a county commissioner. I started at a citizens activist group called Friends of Douglas County, and over almost 10 years, we challenged the thinking of the county leadership at that time, particularly over the type of housing and its impact on the environment and quality of life for all our citizens. We won on some big issues, that I'll mention later. And after retiring from Delta Airlines in 2002, I was really around the house a little bit and working on some honey-do lists. And an open seat became vacant. That's kind of redundant, isn't it? Mm-hmm. For the 3rd District. And a group of friends came to the house and asked me to run. And it was actually very late in the week for qualifying. And after hearing their arguments, and I decided, well, it's something I hadn't thought of, but maybe it'd be a good thing to do. So I was sworn in the fall of 2005 for a single year of service, and then the next year I had to run for a full term. Okay. So it was kind of an interesting route to office, I think.
Becoming a county commissioner,
yeah.
I see. How should people considering running for elected office prepare themselves?
Well, I've kind of touched on it a little bit. Let me go to the negative side just a little bit. I see so often people run for office and people ask me, who are they? They've never been engaged in anything in the community, and I think that's unfortunate because I think that's how you find out the quality of life issues and the things that people are looking for in their community. So you really need to be engaged and contributing in your community in some way, volunteer work, even if it's creating your own initiative, such as I did with the Friends of Douglas County. Mm-hmm. So the first thing would be to just be involved. You're not applying for a job. What you're doing is you're answering a calling to serve others, and so that has to be a certain mindset. So you need to be active in the community before you stand for office. And I think 2 big characteristics that you need to have embedded in your psyche in terms of a public servant in office is that you have to be humble, you have to come into the office with a lot of humility, and you have to have some perseverance. And touching on the humility side, you have to come into the office realizing you don't have all the answers like you thought you did when you were campaigning.
Gotcha.
You don't have all the answers, and I assure you of that. And you have to learn from people who do have the answers. If it's other citizens with their particular area of expertise, county staff, whatever, never hesitate. Make it a habit to get input and get thoughts. And frankly, and here's where the humility comes in, ask for help. You know, absolutely. And at the same time, build relationships on the board. Mm-hmm. Realize that sometimes when an opposing vote takes place, it's just a matter of opinion. It's not to be taken as a personal insult. On the perseverance issue, it takes a lot of patience to get a lot of things done. There are so many legal constraints. There's so many regulations from the federal level all the way down that a board of commissioners can't just say, okay, we're going to do this Monday. It takes a lot of preparation and thought, study, And so you have to be very patient. It took me 10 years, almost 10 years, to get the animal shelter built. Now, I realize during that period we had an economic downturn. That certainly delayed a lot of projects. But the two people need to come into office with is, as I said, is humility and perseverance.
Gotcha. And I also heard in that involvement and engagement. So super. What are some accomplishments? Speak to that. Accomplishments that you're proud to leave behind. One of them, you mentioned the animal shelter.
Yeah. That's certainly on my list. I actually feel like my work with Friends of Douglas County, we accomplished quite a few things before I came to office. One of them was preserving the character of the 24 square mile Bear Creek watershed basin. There was actually discussion at the county level, the zoning level, to rezone that for small lots. I, along with a huge number of people in the community, were able to turn that back, and so we're benefiting from that right now. We don't see what could have happened, which is a good thing. I also, in Friends of Douglas County, we're part of the county being able to acquire 800 acres and 500 acres of green space, which are now parks, because of our support for green space acquisition in the 2002 SPLOST. So that's another thing that I'm extremely proud of. And I did form an ad hoc committee group to get the pilot trail started in Boundary Waters. Now, I know your original question was, being in office, what do you feel like are some of your big accomplishments? And it continues to kind of a common thread through my serving as president of Friends of Douglas County was one of the first things I did was improve our tree ordinance, which prohibited clear cutting of trees, and now developments, which again, due to the economic downturn, we haven't seen a lot of development, but when it does come, we'll see a lot more tree cover preservation. So I'm going to be very proud about that. The Citizens Government Academy is one of the things I think probably I'm most proud of. And I'll be up front, I didn't invent the concept. It was already in place in several other counties. But I visited one of those counties and met with their staff and learned how they did administer and orchestrate the presentation of a Citizens Academy to their citizens. I got the strong support from the commission, and got some volunteer help, and we deployed that Citizens Academy, and we just recently had our 4th graduating class. So I'm extremely proud of the Citizens Academy, which now has over 60 graduates.
Wow.
And to be a little bit self-serving, I think it helps the county because now people are better informed and they can correct their friends and neighbors when something is misstated or misunderstood is probably a better word, misunderstood about the county government. They can actually bring some clarity and reality to what the county government does. I'm extremely proud. Maybe the crowning achievement of my time in office is the new animal shelter. We put it in the right place, built it in the right manner. It's an asset to the community, and extremely proud of that. And then some other things on the list have to be the new, recently opened this year, government annex building. It's a great facility. It's created a much more conducive work environment for people who work in the tax assessor's office and the tag office, and it's certainly been a boon to the citizens who are now have adequate parking away from the courthouse and able to conduct their business there. So that's a great one. And then a couple of parks that have come online. I'm real proud of the Lithia Springs Park. So. Got a lot of things to look back on, and it wasn't I alone. It was certainly the commission and the county staff that contributed to all these success stories.
Awesome, awesome. What are some things you wish you could be around to accomplish?
If God knew my life was indeterminate in length, I certainly want to see the Lee Road extension happen. It's got a couple of different names, East-West Connector or the Southern Arc or whatever, but basically what we're talking about is taking a 4-lane road from the present Lee Road Bridge on I-20 on the east side of the county and taking that road all the way to Chapel Hill Road and then eventually all the way around to I-20, Highway 78 on the west side. If you think about Douglas County, we have a lot of north-south connectivity. Highway 5, Chapel Hill Road, Fairburn Road, to name a few. And what that does is people who are commuting to work, or for that matter, perhaps they're going to Alabama, but mostly I think they're commuting to work in Atlanta, they have to go through the density of Douglasville proper, the city, to get on I-20. So just imagine people, say, coming out of Chapel Hill subdivision, going south instead of north and getting on this Southern Arc Road and be able to get on I-20 east of the city and avoiding all the congestion that happens when you go through the intersection there in Douglasville. So it's going to be a huge boon to transportation and mobility, and at the same time it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for Douglas County in terms of some of the areas it will open up for high quality development. So it's also going to be a great economic development tool.
Awesome.
I've got other things on my list. I mentioned trails, and we presently are doing an engineering study to extend the Path Foundation Chattahoochee Hills Master Plan for Douglas and Carroll County, Coweta, and Fulton counties. Douglas County is the only one to have built anything in that master plan. Okay. And we are presently doing an engineering study to extend that, we'll call it the pilot trail segment there in Boundary Waters, all the way up to Sweetwater Creek State Park. We're talking about a 12-mile trail extension. And actually it's the longest trail plan in the state. And I'm talking about a trail from scratch, not a trail that's taking over a railroad bed or utility easement. It's the longest trail plan in the state. And because the funding for the engineering study has been funded through the state, through the ARC, I'm pretty sure it's going to be built. And so that's going to be, again, people think of trails, they automatically think of walking with their families and the educational experience, the health attributes, and those sort of things. But again, it's going to be an economic development tool as well, because as offices and corporate offices, doctors' offices, et cetera, and homes build along the trail, they will utilize that trail, and they will come to it because of the trail, because we've seen that with the Silver Comet Trail up in Cobb County. So those are two big hitters, and one that's very close to my heart and in the core of my district. I would love to see the Punkintown Park developed, and especially see a place for scouts, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, to be able to camp in Douglas County, and Punkintown would be a great opportunity for that. So those are kind of my three big hitters right there. Gotcha. Hope I didn't run on too long.
No, not at all. I think a lot of people would want to hear and know, really, some of the things you wish could be around to accomplish. Being a commissioner, a county commissioner, that can't be that easy. Tell us some of your challenges or frustrations.
This is by no means meant to be a criticism of our citizens, but I think they know and realize that we don't have enough citizen engagement. When we have a meeting, we frequently don't have a very good turnout, and I'll add this: blogging on the internet is not citizen activism. It's talking to your neighbors, it's coming to meetings at the commission, it's contacting your commission, your elected representatives. One of the things that frustrates me is I'll see something on a blog, and it'll be, everything from potholes to taxes to dogs running loose in the community. I never got a phone call. You know, why don't people pick up the phone and call their commissioner rather than posting on something on the internet that may or may not be seen? That's not my source of information. My source of information is emails that I get that triggers responses from me to take action is phone calls and emails. And so that's one of my frustrations. I understand why it happens. Lack of citizen follow-up. Again, I'll be at a function and people will say, Mike, would you take a look at this? And you know, we're in a social setting, and I said, well, absolutely. Would you mind calling me or just email me so I'll have a paper record of, and I can go to the department head and get that taken care of? I can tell you in 13 years, I think one person has followed up after talking to me at a community event. Again, I'm not blaming people, but the reality is you have to be more active, even when it's not convenient. And that entails making a phone call. My phone number's always been on my business card at home. And a lot of times I wish people would call me at home rather than just post something. Give me a chance to get it taken care of. And then if I can't, you know, say something bad about me. That's fine. That's part of it. And the last thing that really inwardly focused is the time that it takes to get things accomplished. I kind of alluded to it earlier. You come up here as a brand new commissioner, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and you find out, well, that's what you want to do. But the reality is the legal department's got something to say with it. Our purchasing process has got something to say about it. The state's got something to say about it, and the federal government's got something to say about it, and the city and so many you know, actors involved in community initiatives that what is it? It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a lot more than that to get anything done in county government. It extends way beyond our borders. So it's been frustrating, you know, seeing some of our projects take so long, especially in the transportation arena specifically. So I think I've unloaded enough.
Well, let's go from challenges, frustrations, to fond memories. Let's change the mood to fond memories. You know, tell us some of your fondest memories in your position.
I think really two things are certainly at the top of the list. The privilege that I had cutting the ribbon at the animal shelter, and I thank Chairman Dr. Jones for that, and the mayor placed me right in the middle to cut that ribbon for opening of the animal shelter, and certainly the groundbreaking for the animal shelter is way up there. The other one was completing that first session in 2015 of the Citizens Academy, and welcoming those people who decided to be fully engaged, and it was a commitment. You know, you're asking people to come for 10 evenings and one weekend. To be engaged, contribute, to learn about county government. Some of whom have run for office now, which is a great thing. I'm very proud of that. And then the graduation of that first group. Those were very fond of my heart, and some of the things I'm most proud of.
Wow. Commissioner Mulcair?
Oh, I forgot something.
Tell me.
Okay. You go first.
No. What'd you forget?
The fundraiser, the big party that we had, celebrate Peggy's and my 50th wedding anniversary, the number of people that came out and the amount of money that we raised, it was almost $20,000 to spay and neuter animals at the animal shelter and in the Humane Society, has got to be another really high point. And I particularly treasure it because Peggy was part and parcel of that event. That was a really that's going to live with me a long time.
Thank you for inviting me, by the way.
Okay.
It was my first time being a part.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do after retirement from the Board of Commissioners?
Well, I think you could probably kind of draw some conclusions about some of the things I've worked on as a commissioner. I'm going to remain active in the community. And certainly there'll be opportunities that are not on my horizon right now, just like being a commissioner was back in 2005. There'll be some things that arrive, but I want to continue to contribute to the community, contribute to the quality of life of all the citizens. I want to continue to focus on green space and its conservation. I'm not what you would call a tree hugger.
Okay.
I think that as green space and conservation contribute to a community, it makes the community more valuable. It provides amenities to people that appreciates their value, but at the same time, it's wonderful to preserve that green space just for educational purposes and families getting away from the the Xbox and the Netflix and that sort of thing, and getting out together and learning and experiencing things. I can tell you that from my experience and going back to my memory and my children's memory, families and children in families remember those things more than watching television with their family. They remember getting out on the trails and seeing a deer in a park, a raccoon or whatever. So that's going to remain very, very close to some things I want to focus on. Now, in terms of infrastructure, we need to continue to advance. I think we've got a great plan for Douglas County in terms of transportation and economic development. And those are going to be some things that I want to continue to support the commission and be heard in the community as a community. Again, going back to my community activist past, that's something that I'm going to continue to be focused on as well. So that's what I intend to do. Could I just take a moment here?
Yes.
I'd like to
Please do.
get perhaps a little sentimental and thank Peggy. I have to give her credit for all the strength of her convictions. She's always been a wise and caring presence in my life.
I tell you, it's dear and straight to the heart.
And with the exception of God, I credit her for all the positive things in my life.
And I'll tell you, that's a great way to segue, because we're going to take a break, and a short break. And joining us when we come back is Commissioner Mulcair's wife, Peggy Mulcair. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining us now, Commissioner Mulcair's wife, Peggy. Peggy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Tell me, how did you and Commissioner Mulcair meet?
Well, it was in high school.
Wow.
I had a friend who asked me to double date with her and her boyfriend and go with Mike. It turns out that she was dating her boyfriend, but at the same time she was dating Mike. So anyway, we decided, she decided rather, that to fool her boyfriend, we would double date. But and then it turned out that he never dated her again.
Wow.
It was all over, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Wow. How long have you guys been married?
In January, it'll be 53 years.
53 years. Man. What advice would you offer to the spouse of any elected official?
Well, I know that I have been in meetings where they're questioning my husband, and he says something that, or someone says something that is not quite right or true. And so I get very hot under the collar when they do that, and I have a tendency to, you know, to want to defend him. And so I guess the best thing is to try and keep you cool, but at the same time, if it's appropriate, you should speak up and let them know that they are not speaking correctly, that they have the story wrong.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well said. How do you feel about Commissioner Mulcair retiring from the Board of Commissioners now?
Well, at his advanced age.
Hey. Come on now.
No, I would like for him to retire because he has put a lot of time and energy into being a commissioner, and actually at night he sometimes cannot sleep because of a decision that has to be made, and he has a lot on his mind, and so I feel like he would sleep better.
You
It'll
get
help,
some
it'll help us
rest.
travel too.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially that we have to do everything around his meetings. He's always looking at the calendar.
So you'd be looking to enjoy some traveling then?
Yes, definitely.
Speaking of travel or plans, do you have any plans after Commissioner Mulcair retires?
Well, as I said, travel. I love to travel. I love to go places. We went to Vietnam, and we've been to Korea. My daughter was in Korea, and we've been in a lot of places, but there's still more to see. And we would like to see more of the United States. There's a lot of places that we've not been, a lot of states we haven't seen, so we would like to do that. But one of the things I really want to do is work more in our garden. This year, our garden was on the Hydrangea Festival tour of gardens, and we put a lot of work in it. I thought, oh, this is going to be easy, and then I started looking at the garden and see. And Mike was needed to do the heavy lifting, and he was not available a lot of times, so it will be good for us to be able to complete our dream of the garden.
I remember you were telling me, Commissioner Mulcair, about being on the tour during this past year's Hydrangea Festival.
Our first time.
And that's always in the first week of June, so put it on your calendar, people, for next year. It won't be our garden, but some beautiful garden will be available.
Mrs. Mulcair, what are some of your fondest memories of Commissioner Mulcair while he was in office?
Well, I'm going to start before he was in office and say that Mike was very much involved in the community issues before he ran for office. He would rally people to come to the courthouse about changes which would affect their neighborhoods. Many people became friends over the years due to this. And so when the 3rd District Commissioner's office became available, people came to him and asked him to run for office. And during that time that he has been in office, he has fought for green space, trails, parks, animals, transportation, and he wants to continue with that after he leaves office. So my memories are really around these things that have helped people and made me so proud of him.
And speaking of members of the community, we spoke to some members of the community.
Really?
Commissioner Mulcair, yes, and they had some things to say, and we'd like to share that with you.
All right, thank you.
I'm met Mike Mulcair through Tony Gonzalez when he was campaigning, and Mike was a member of the Friends of Douglas County. And we quickly became friends. We had kind of same interests, and I liked the way he was going with that. And I was concerned about the community just like he was. It was a good matchup.
I met Commissioner Mulcair as the pastor of Tranquil AME Church here in Douglasville, Georgia. Unlike most politicians, I did not meet him as a result of his running for an office. He just came by to introduce himself to me as the new pastor of Tranquil, and that was about 9 years ago. But the thing that really shocked me about Commissioner Mulcair was that he did not come around only when it was election time. He would come to our midday Bible study. He would come to some of our worship services after worshiping at his place of worship. He would just drop by some days during the week, and we would talk or have lunch. He was just a nice guy. We kind of got along pretty well together. I consider him a friend and even more a brother.
I'm pretty sure that after he was in office, that I probably sat with him at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, because he was so totally involved immediately after becoming a commissioner. And I don't think that I was attending a meeting where I was opposing something at the time, but I do know that he and I would sit together quite often at Chamber of Commerce meetings and discuss the things that were going on in the county. And I'm pretty sure that's where I first really sat down with a good conversation with him.
I first met Mr. Mulcair during the time when our community, Mount Vernon Point subdivision, was going through changes. They were widening Fairburn Road from a 2-lane to a 4-lane, and we were in need of a traffic light where Shoal School Road is now located. And Mike was very instrumental in helping us obtain that goal of getting a traffic light. He was our commissioner at the time, and I also worked with him on his re-election campaign. So he became a very good friend, not only to myself, but also to the community.
I came to know Mike about 20 years ago. We were members of the same church, St. Teresa's Catholic Church, and he is a member of a men's group called the Knights of Columbus. The Knights of Columbus do a lot of charitable things, and Mike readily joined and became an active member of that organization.
I came to know Commissioner Mulcair because when I moved to Douglasville, Douglas County, in, I believe it was 2006, I had always been connected to my community. So one of the first things that I did was reach out to all of my elected officials, and I asked for them to come to, of all things, a garage sale. So I had a garage sale, and I asked for all of my elected officials to come out to meet me, and he was the only one that showed up. So since he was the only one that showed up, me, Mike, my mother, my daughter, and his wife, we all became really good friends, and we really connected. And throughout the years, Mike has always been like an extended part of our family. He always asks about my mom, and if there's invitations that go out, Mike is always invited. And throughout the years, even with my daughter growing up, he would ask about her. He would send, what do you call them, projects that she could do for science fairs. He would send them to her for her to check out. So that was the way that me and Mike got connected, was by him coming to that garage sale. And I love to tell that story because, you know, who comes out to a garage sale to meet their elected officials? Well, he actually came to meet me, so that was pretty awesome.
You know, he was sort of an A to Z commissioner. He was involved with so many things that are going on in our county. From A, which would be the arts, He was involved with the Cultural Arts Center and the Cultural Arts Center and Council. He actually put on a very nice exhibit several times and contributed a lot to that. If we want to skip right on through to Z, our animal shelter, of course, is not a zoo, but it does have animals in it.
I've seen him do several things. One is I'm heavily involved in the Special Olympics community in Douglas County, and Mike has always been, in his role as a Knight of Columbus and as a commissioner, very involved in supporting that community. He proactively comes to many of our events. As recently as 2 weeks ago, he actually officiated at a bocce tournament for special needs in Douglas County.
It's actually hard to name anything specific because Mike has been instrumental in accomplishing so much. When we were part of District 2, when we were part of his district before it was rezoned, and we were no longer connected with him from that perspective, we continued to keep that connection with Mike, and he was always able to keep us up to date. In fact, I could just filter a series of questions to him, and he would be able to answer those, and oftentimes I would still reach out to our new commissioner, but I knew that I could get a quick answer from Mike, and he was always responsive. So we've always been very grateful for that.
I feel like Mike Mulcair has done a lot in Douglas County. One of the main things that I've been personally involved with Mike is through the Humane Society, and we have a fundraiser that Mike started for spay and neuter, and that's been a very successful fundraiser. And Mike has always been passionate about the way our little four-legged citizens are treated. So I know the new animal shelter was a passion of his. There was a lot of people that worked on that animal shelter to get it become what it is and where it is and it completed. I know Mike was very instrumental in that. And I've worked, and he asked me to be part of the committee for the spay and neuter fundraiser that he started with his wife, Peggy. It was for their 50th wedding anniversary, and he wanted to parlay that over to a fundraiser for we could take the monies and use it toward the spay and neuter programs that Douglas County had.
I saw him respect other human beings. I saw him not as a user of people, but as a lover of people. For me, a pastor, that is very important and very critical, especially in these days when some politicians seem to be so very plastic. He seemed to be so very real. That impressed me and will continue to impress me, I would imagine, for the remainder of my days.
That's an awesome question because, I know you probably just saw the big old smile that came on my face, just knowing that, again, he has been just an awesome integral part of the community. I hope that he just has a ball and takes his time to enjoy himself. He's always going to be a public figure here in the community, so wherever he goes, he's still going to get love, he's still going to get hugs, he's probably still going to get questions. But from this time on, just relax and enjoy being part of the community instead of someone on show, on work all the time, because that's been, for the years that he's been commissioner, he has had a 24-hour on-call presence for the community. So take time out for yourself. Whatever it is, Mike, that you want to do, you do it and do it to the best. Do it with your wife and just enjoy your life, enjoy your time, and just know that you have just many people everywhere that absolutely love you, like me and my family.
I would express to Mike, which when he did convey to Felicia and I in our last meeting that he was thinking of retiring, I would tell him I wish him the best of luck, but I'm really, really sad to see him go. Even though he's not our commissioner anymore, I felt that we still could rely on him to be an advocate for our community, for Douglas County. So I feel that Douglas County will be at a great loss without Mike Mulcair.
Good luck, continue your hard work, and I hope your animal shelter and Douglas County Special Olympics can continue to count on you in the future. As Mike's leaving office and retiring, it really is bittersweet because he's done so much for Douglas County, but also, you know, there comes a time when you do need to retire, and he'll be greatly missed by the citizens of Douglas County and government also.
Well, I would suggest to him that he not even consider the word retirement, but that he would consider the word renaissance. The Renaissance marked the end of one period and the beginning of another. It marked the end of the Middle Ages and the rise of the modern era. I would suggest to Commissioner Mike that he would ask himself a question. The question is, if you were doing what you absolutely loved, what would you be doing? If you were paid for doing what you absolutely loved, what would you be doing? Your Renaissance now will give you the freedom to do what you want, to be as active as you want, to work the job that you want, to be in a place where money doesn't dictate your choices. One day I hope to be there, but you are there now. If you were being paid for doing what you absolutely love, what would you be doing? And I suggest that you focus on whatever that is and do it to the best of your ability. This is not the end of your life. This is the beginning of a new life, and I pray that you will enjoy it to its fullest. May the good that you've done in the lives of others be multiplied in your life exponentially for the remainder of your life.
Well, number one, I'm really sorry that you have decided to retire. I don't really blame you. You've worked hard. But I do want to be able to sit down with you, maybe at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and please stay involved. I know that there are many, many things in our county that you have been a part of, and I haven't talked to you, so I don't know what your plans are, but I think probably you will be very much involved with what's going on in the county. We have so much that's happening here that will move our county forward economically, as a leading county, commercially, and I really do hope that you will get yourself involved also with the school system, because that's a major, major part of the population, and it's so important. So, Mike, stay busy.
Well, I actually did share some sentiments on his Facebook page, and I will reiterate that he has been an outstanding advocate for Douglas County in general, particularly for our district, and the things that he's done even for animal services with the annual fundraiser that he does. We certainly are always there to support that, and will continue to as long as he continues to do it. And the results of his efforts throughout Douglas County is just, you know, things that you can't even just name one. There's just so many. And we're just really going to miss Mike, and we wish him the best.
Oh, go have fun. You have worked so hard for Douglas County, and I'm so appreciative that you are in Douglas County and helped build a wonderful Douglas County and expand it so much, and turning the baton over to somebody else is just fantastic. So we can continue with Douglas County, and I'm hoping that you and your wife and family get to go on many a good vacation and just have a lot of fun now that you're going to be out on your own.
I think we all deserve retirement. I think the way Mike became in office was sort of organic. I don't think he intentionally went out to be a public servant, but I think it just happened over the course of what was happening in Douglas County. And I think he's always been an advocate for Douglas County, and I think even in his retirement, he will continue to be that. I don't think he's just going to go away. I think he'll still be someone that Douglas County and the citizens of Douglas County can always depend on in whatever capacity he becomes after retirement. I'm sure it's something he's still going to contribute to this county, and I really appreciate that from him. I've got to, all the things I've volunteered for with Mike, Mike's a very honest person, he doesn't try to do things just for his honor, but I've got to actually say that his little support system is his wife, Peggy, and she's just as honest and sweet and dedicated to Douglas County, and they together have made a tremendous impact for us, and we appreciate her and Mike.
Well, it's been almost 13 years, and it just doesn't seem that long. I want to spend these last few moments with you to express my gratitude to the many people who have helped me in so many ways over those years. It would be impossible to mention every person, but you know who you are. Be it a kind note at the right moment, or an encouraging word during a rough time for me, or just an occasional thank you for serving. I, in turn, fervently thank you. Along the way, I've been privileged to work with some fine public servants, both elected and non-elected. Several commissioners, including 2 fine chairmen, who have made my being a commissioner for free plus terms a very enriching experience. And in speaking of public servants, I would be very remiss in not acknowledging our great county employees. Many of them you see are road crews, sheriff deputies, or firemen and EMTs. Perhaps you've called 911 or spoken to someone in code enforcement. But there's so many invisible servant employees who don't just work for a paycheck, but work to make Douglas County a better place. So thank you to our outstanding Douglas County employees. Since Judge Emerson swore me in for my first term in fall of 2005, the people of 3rd District have repeatedly had the confidence and trust to re-elect me in every election since. I always try to keep my pride in check, but the fact that you let me be your commissioner is one of the proudest experiences of my life. Thank you all, and God bless Douglas County.